Yes. All right. Hi, everyone, and a very good evening. And I welcome you, all of you, to Community Engagement Summit 2020. And this is a panel one where we're going to discuss everything about integrating mental health to realize Millennium Development Goals. And we have all our panelists present here today. I welcome each one of you and thank you for taking out time and being here for this panel. So moving ahead, I would just tell you a bit about Community Engagement Summit and why we are planning to do that. And before going directly into that, I'll just introduce myself. I'll give a brief about myself. So hi everyone, this is Shalmali. I am the founder of two different initiatives, Empathy for You and ULead. Empathy for You is an organization that works in spreading awareness about mental health and suicide prevention. And ULead is bridging the gap between mentors and wannabe entrepreneurs. So there's two different initiatives that have come together and they've launched this summit, which is called as Community Engagement Summit, which is trying to bring social entrepreneurs, mental health professionals, and artists on the same platform for all the young, ambitious people out there who are trying to redefine the meaning of leadership, entrepreneurship, innovation, and purpose. And that is why we all are here today. So before going ahead, I would just love you all to introduce yourselves. Yes. Anyone who would love to go ahead voluntarily?
Okay, do you mind if I go ahead?
Yes, please, Priyanka.
Yeah. Okay, hello everyone and good evening. My name is Priyanka Gaikwad and I have completed my master's in clinical psychology and I've been practicing in Mumbai since 5 years. I have my own practice called Mind Over Matter, which is based in Mumbai Andheri East. And I have also completed my animal assisted therapy from University of North Texas. So I also practice as an animal assisted therapist in Mumbai, which is across schools, across corporate offices, and across NGOs where we take our therapy dogs and we working on awareness of mental health.
Wow, that's
Thank you.
great. We are glad to have you on our panel.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Who would love to go next? All right, I'll tell. Aruba, can you please introduce yourselves?
Yes, that is better. You call the names and we will introduce. Hey guys, hi. My name is Aruba Kabir, and I'm a mental health counselor, a therapist, and founder of Enso Wellness. I've been practicing as a counselor for last 7 years, and I've been working with individual corporates, NGOs, hospitals. I run certain support groups for rare medical conditions and chronic medical conditions with few hospitals and NGOs, and have support group for LGBTQ as well. And yeah, we at Enso Wellness, we try to, we have collaborated with various therapists, counselors, healers, and yoga practitioners, so that we are able to give a holistic kind of arrangement to all the clients who come to us. Because if you tell them do this, then it becomes difficult. How do we do this? So yeah, we are trying to do that. And I'm really glad to be part of this forum. I'm sure, I'm so proud of Shalmali. She's so young and she has so many these beautiful initiatives in her mind. And thank you so much, Shalmali, for doing this and for bringing all of us together here.
Oh my God, thank you so much. That is my pleasure. Yes, Aditi, would you love to go next?
Like how it's you love to go. It's not like go next. Okay. My name is Aditi Kaul. I am an expressive arts-based therapist and I run the program for Fortis Healthcare's art-based therapy division under the Department of Mental Health and Behavioral Sciences. I trained to be a psychologist, so I did my master's from the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, then did my dance movement certification from SIMTAI, and UNESCO and CID certified. Then I did a course with the Canadian International Institute of Art Therapy, where I got my visual art based certification and training. So that's, yeah, I think that's where I'm at. I've been practicing now for about 8 years and working in a hospital setting, both with physical illness and mental health issues that come into us in the OPD. Also, we do a lot of work with schools. We do a lot of outreach work with NGOs, with institutions like corporate organizations. So there's, I think, like a whole range of work that's happening.
All right, great. Thank you so much for coming on this panel. We are great to have you. Ruchi, would you go next?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you, Shalmali, for having all of us here. My name is Ruchi. I am a dance movement therapist and a mental health counselor. I received my master's in DMT and counseling from Chicago in 2015, 2016. So I've been practicing in the field for about 4 to 5 years. I've recently co-founded the Indian Association of Dance Movement Therapy with 8 of my other colleagues. And I think my work has been pretty, spread out in the pursuit of advocating for mental health and dance movement therapy specifically. So I've worked with children, special needs. I currently work with adults in an individual therapy setting. But I think most of my work and my passion lies with trauma and working with individuals from under-resourced communities who've experienced complex trauma. And yeah, I live in Bombay, and I'm really happy to be here with all of you today. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Anaga?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Anagha. I am a counselor living in Nagpur. So I also finished my master's around 4 years ago, and I've been a practicing therapist since then. As some of you may have seen on my bio, I have a family of mental health practitioners. So I haven't really founded an organization, but it's a private practice between me, my father, who's a psychiatrist, and my sister. So, we don't have access to a lot of therapists, and definitely not a lot of access to like mental health organizations that predominantly work in that area. So as an independent therapist and practitioner, I do a lot of outreach programs, awareness campaigns, in whatever individual capacity I can. So yeah, that's about it.
Great. Thank you so much. Rashi, you are left now.
Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you, Shalmali, for having me here. And I think I'm the only one here without like a psychology or a counseling background. So I think I have so much to learn from this bunch of amazing women out here. I am from Bangalore, and I am an engineering graduate. So that is my background. Let's not even get started on how I made that shift. Shalmali knows about it. So maybe we'll just talk about it after the session. But yeah, so right now I am working as a marketing executive with Your Dost, which is an online counseling and emotional wellness platform. I am also a certified QPR instructor trainer, and I am also advocating for mental health. I'm an activist as well as a change maker with change.org. So that's about me.
All right, great. And first of all, congratulations for you. That was a real great success, and we actually needed that. Thank you. And thank you for
so
being
much.
a part of panel.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's so great to be here.
All right. So without further ado, I guess we'll jump directly into the questions. And yeah. So starting with the questions, my first question is for Aruba. Aruba, why do you think like mental health is one of the most neglected, but yet it is essential for developmental issues when we talk about millennial development goals?
It's still like people haven't accepted that mental health as physical health. Or when if somebody has a back issue or a neck issue, as Aditi is here, she works with Fortis. I closely work with Fortis a lot. And when you have to go to the doctor and you are like, I have a back issue. Where are you going? Oh, I'm going to see an orthopedician. I'm going to see a gynecologist. I'm going to see so and so. But the minute you have a fracture in your thought, you have some difficulty, you ask the person, well, I'm going to see a neighbor. I'm going to see a friend. I have some work, and people start lying about it. Now, does it come from one side that it is the person who is having the issue, they are being ashamed of it? No, it is coming from both the sides. One, If I say it, I'm going to be judged. I'm going to be stigmatized. I'm going to be considered not so-called normal. And I have faced it 12 years back when I was in depression, when I had my own doctor told me not to talk to people about my depression. Like I was supposed to say that I'm on steroids for my medical condition, but I was not supposed to say that I'm on antidepressant for my depression. So now if somebody is going through a problem and is on medication, is on therapy, but at the same time is not supposed to talk about it to normal public, normal people, friends, families, it becomes a huge issue that you are, getting under something which is very, very heavy. So I guess that acceptance has not come. But at the same time, I have seen a graceful change in last 10 years, a huge change. I would not say a rural area, but to be honest with you, I have so many clients from rural areas, somewhere from Karnataka and Coorg and Allahabad and Lucknow. I haven't even heard the names of those villages. Since they have gotten the internet, they call you, okay, internet is not, they give you audio call, we want help. So an awareness has been there, but it is still difficult and a lot has to be done. Then I always say that if you want to see the change, be the change. Don't put it on someone else. So if I had gone through depression, it became my duty to talk about it. If I was someone who harmed myself and I found myself later, so it became my responsibility to talk and create awareness, which people don't do. Like among us also, among therapists, I have therapist friends, professional friends, they don't talk about their own challenges as if, they are superhuman, they not have challenges. They're like, we are absolutely okay. I'm like, okay, if you talk about your own challenge sometimes to the client, post the session, maybe before the session, not during when he's or she's paying you money, that will encourage the person that, she having so much of knowledge, having so much of expertise, is going through something, and it will give them a hope, but they don't do that. So I guess it becomes it is up to us now who are aware of it. And we need to, apart from us, okay, we are professionals. We have Rashi here, it's kind of, in Kashmir, we call them gatekeepers. So we are preparing a lot of gatekeepers, mental health advocates. So we need to give them that access as well, spread the knowledge, tell them they can learn the warning signs, they can connect people with you, they can create that awareness, because you cannot do everything, but we are not doing that. And that is the reason it is still being under the curtains. It's like still, okay, mental health hai, kuch nahi hai, theek ho jayega. At the same time, oh, tumhe hua tha, mujhe bhi hua tha. After 10 years, you'll be okay. When you look at it, you will laugh about it. But the minute the person is going through that is the biggest thing. So I guess a lot of acceptance has to come in the society still, but we need to start it from us who are in the field, and we need to create that change rather than thinking that when the world changes, we will be there, as professionals and help them out. Let's think that, let us start that, let us create an awareness one step at a time, and be open, be vulnerable about our own issues also, talk about it so that people get encouraged that, okay, it is there. So yeah, that's how I feel we can create more awareness about it and reach to people.
Yes, definitely. And when we talk about, creating awareness, that needs to be started from our own family, that needs to start from our own friend circle. And that is how we can be a contribution in spreading awareness. All right, so this takes me to my next question.
One thing, there's this, I come from Muslim background. So we have this beautiful thing in us. If you want to start the charity, first it goes to your own family member. First family member, then your neighbor, which is next door neighbor, then your mohalla, then your community. So it is not like directly you go to your relative. First, clean the area around you, then begin. And it's similar with mental health or physical health. I guess that is how it should be.
Yes, that's really true. All right, so this takes me to my next question, and I would love to ask this question to Priyanka. What do you think are the main causes of poor mental health, specifically in India?
Okay, so I think the foremost reason for having poor mental health is lack of awareness, which it's not accepted in our community yet. I mean, though we are trying our best and though we still have people working towards it, but I still feel somewhere that people are not ready to accept. So I have seen few of my clients who are still scared to tell the family members, you know. So we have clients who come and tell me that I don't want to let my family know that I'm suffering. Which is the saddest part. I feel that maybe because the generation to generation it's happening, there's no acceptance or there's no talking about something called as mental health. A lot of people are not aware exactly what mental health is, and they associate it with as a casual term that if I cry for like a week and I'm still, it is okay to cry and I'm fine, so there is no harm or there's no problem which I am carrying with me. So I think the first reason is a lot of awareness which needs to be there. There's a lot of stigma still attached to mental health, a lot of discrimination still which takes place in our community when it comes to mental health. And you know that, you know, in India, there is everything which comes to environment, upbringing, a lot of things, life experiences teaches you, right? So you see mental health is associated with lots of things. Like you see personal life is also related to mental health. You see money and work is related to mental health. You see your health issues are then related to mental health. In terms of any substance abuse, it is related to mental health. So when it comes to mental health, I think mental health is avoided in one part, but these all issues are still considered to be the most traumatic events for them rather than focusing on mental health. So I think if you see those life challenges in whole, I think this is where we lack, I don't know if it's globally, but definitely in our country.
Okay, yes, perfect. So moving on to the next question, I guess Rashi would be perfect to answer this question. As Aruba was talking about, you know, spreading awareness, vulnerability is something that comes in picture. And when people feel like, you know, being vulnerable, in turn makes you not, or in turn makes you weak, or, you know, it shows that you're not strong. So how would we convey this to people, or how would we tell this to people that, you know, vulnerability is strength?
Right, right. So true. So I think not just within our society or our community, I think everywhere this is an issue that vulnerability is considered a negative emotion. So expressing grief or being vulnerable is sort of, it is associated with, you know, you're weak if you cry, you're weak if you talk about your mental health. If you tell someone that you're depressed, or if you tell someone you are having those sort of thoughts, they sort of label you as someone who's weak. And I think that's where the whole narrative needs to change, that being vulnerable, expressing grief, crying, and all of these emotions, expressing all of these emotions is not a negative thing. These are not negative emotions. These are in fact very, very important emotions. They need to be expressed. People need to grieve. You shouldn't ask them to sort of suppress these things, because especially in the context of gender, when we talk about men and women or boys and girls, boys are usually told that boys don't cry. Whenever they want to express themselves in any way, they are told to suppress that. And I think that's where the whole conditioning and the whole that sort of conditioning begins. And that's where they learn to sort of bottle their emotions up, and it definitely starts to take a toll on your mental health. So we need to change this narrative around vulnerability and tell people that this is not a negative emotion. In fact, this is a very, very important part of your mental well-being. Just the way that you express happiness, sadness, excitement, love, you should be expressing your grief, your vulnerability, and all of these sort of emotions. And I think we need to reach that balance. So this needs to not only be done on an individual level, but needs to be done at a parental level. Parents play a very, very important role, at a community level, and at an organization level as well.
Yes, yes, that's true. All right, so I guess there are a few minutes left for this meeting, so I'll just end this meeting and we'll join again with the same link. All right? Yeah, thank you.